So back in Washington, House Republicans are now reacting to some tough words from President Obama at his last news conference of the first term, which took place yesterday morning. It was a long one. He says Republicans only have two options in the battle over raising the nation's borrowing limit. Here's what he said.
They can act responsibly and pay America's bills, or they can act irresponsibly in America through another economic crisis. But they will not collect a ransom in exchange for not crashing the American economy. The financial well-being of the American people is not leverage to be used.
There you go. Iowa Republican Congressman Steve King joins me now. So those are your two options. You can either crash the American economy, or you can raise the debt limit, or you can refuse to raise the debt limit. What do you pick, Congressman King?
Isn't that some masterful political rhetoric coming from the president? And if you listen to him talk, there's a little pause in his selection of words there, so you know that it's choreographed and carefully chosen. But the American people are going to be able to see through this, I believe. The first problem we need to deal with, Martha, is the misuse of the term default that emerged in the last debt ceiling crisis in August of 2011, when it was used on both sides of the aisle that when we reached the point that the United States didn't have any more borrowing authority, that automatically meant default. Well, it doesn't. That was a false definition then. It's a false definition now. We have enough money to operate some essential components of this government, and we can go on for a very long time. So this isn't a crisis that hits a deadline that turns it into a default. And furthermore, the economy of the United States, if we continue on this $1 trillion plus a year increase in our national debt, does eventually hit a place of insolvency. That's what I fear. That's what most conservatives fear. Martha.
All right. So, I mean, but the president is basically saying to you and the rest of the Republicans in the House that he's going to raise the debt limit, that the debt limit is going to go up, and that there won't be any negotiation over spending cuts that might offset that increase. There's going to be no negotiation. So what will you do?
First of all, I don't think the president can stay out of the dialogue because he was in it yesterday. Second is he does not have the constitutional authority to raise the debt limit. And I understand that the White House has receded from that in the last several days. But if the president should decide to defy the Constitution, it does put the House in a situation where we have to defend it. We've all taken an oath to uphold the Constitution, and we respect the oath we gave, unlike that of the president, who seems to think he can cavalierly cast aside the language in the Constitution and his own oath of office. So there are a couple of things we can do. But one is we can start shutting down the appropriations. We can dig in. And in the end, however we bring this pressure together, the decision will be made by the will of the American people. And that might be in the next election, but as the pressure builds, members of Congress react to the support they get.
Okay, but you know, I guess what I'm asking for is in terms of a plan. I mean, are you going to put forth something that says we, the House Republicans, believe that this program should be cut, this agency should be cut, these are the spending cuts that we would outline in order to offset the increase in the debt ceiling? We believe that there need to be cuts, and these are what they would be. Are you going to do that?
You know, Martha, we're going to get together this weekend, and we're going to crunch all of that out. So I don't want to presume that there's a consensus there that I might adhere to, and I want to do that with my colleagues. But we need to lay down the broad, bright line that, for me, it's this. I want to see, when does this budget balance? We must have cuts to go along with any debt ceiling increase. They must be substantial. There must be a line that says here's when the budget gets to balance.
But you need to, don't you believe, I mean, you need to sell that idea to the American people with specifics and with a plan and say, we're the House GOP, here's what we would do, here's the programs that we would cut in order to reach parity over the next 5 years. You know, we may never get this, but we want the American people to understand what we stand for. Is that something we can expect?
Well, Martha, I take your point that we need to sell it with specifics, but you also understand that as soon as the specific is put out there, it's attacked by the spending piranhas on the other side. We have to first nail down the concept. And I'd add another concept to this. A balanced budget amendment passed out of the House and the Senate and sent to the states for ratification. We've got to get this under control. Most conservatives believe that we have to come to a point where we stand and fight. I hope this is the time, because it gives us an opportunity to say back to the president, what are your your spending priorities? Will you pay our active duty military first with the money you have? There is no such thing as default under this definition. And will you pay Social Security? Will you pay Medicare? Or will you use it as a political tool to try to get the House Republicans to cave? That's what's really we're faced with.
I mean, you're talking about negotiation. The president's saying that he's not interested in that. He's not going to do that. So this could get very interesting. And I think, in a way, a lot of the American people hope that it does, because they want to hear that debate. They want to see that discussion out in front of them. Representative King, it's always nice to have you with us.